Eli sat cross-legged on the floor of his small shared room, adjusting the holographic projector that hovered above the table. The room was part of the Nova Horizon colony, a sprawling settlement on a planet far from Earth. Humans and aliens lived here together, but only in carefully arranged environments. Most of the time, human-alien interaction was polite but distant. Eli had hoped that his roommate would be friendly. He just hadn't expected her to walk in by accident. He sighed as he adjusted the holographic display. Okay, if I rotate the energy grid by 7.3 degrees... No, 7.5. Maybe 7.4, he muttered. His fingers moved quickly through the air, manipulating the floating light beams. The project had to be perfect. After all, he was aiming to win the Novatech scholarship, which would allow him to study advanced interstellar navigation. The sound of the door sliding open startled him. He whipped around. "Wait! Who?" And then he froze. Standing in the doorway was Lyra, a being unlike any Eli had ever seen in his life. Her skin shimmered faintly, like liquid crystal, changing color subtly as she moved. She had 6 eyes, arranged in 2 vertical rows, all blinking in perfect synchronization. Her long fingers ended in delicate, translucent tips that glowed slightly in the dim room. She froze as well, staring at Eli with wide, luminescent eyes. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Eli swallowed hard, feeling his own pulse race. Hi," he said, waving a hand. Lyra's eyes darted to the holographic projector above the table. Her head tilted at an impossible angle, and she emitted a soft, chime-like sound. Eli blinked. "It's okay. It's just a school project," he said. "Nothing dangerous." Lyra stepped inside slowly, as if entering a zone of unknown life forms. She raised her hand to scan him, and a faint blue light flickered across his chest. Eli jumped back. "Hey, don't do that!" She froze, as if realizing she had broken some rule. "Scan!" "Apology," she said in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. Her accent was strange, and the words were almost musical. Eli blinked. You speak some human words?" "Yes," she replied cautiously. "Limited comprehension." Eli exhaled. "Well, that's good, I guess. I'm Eli, human. You?" "Lyra," she said. She hesitated before adding, "Alien. Roommate. Accidental entry." Eli's eyebrows shot up. "Accidental entry?" She tilted her head again, glowing softly. "Door, wrong room, error." "Apologies." Eli laughed nervously. "No worries. Happens sometimes. I wasn't expecting an alien roommate." Lyra's 6 eyes blinked rapidly. "You? Human? Different?" "Yes, I'm different," Eli said, smiling awkwardly. "But not dangerous. I promise." Lyra's gaze lingered on him. Slowly, she took another step forward, her hands moving in slow, careful gestures. Eli noticed the small floating devices around her wrists, monitoring her environment. He realized she wasn't just curious. She was studying him, learning everything about a human for the first time. Eli rubbed the back of his neck. So, do you usually walk into rooms by accident?" Lyra's soft, chime-like laugh echoed around the room. "Rare, very rare. This unusual." They stood in silence for a few moments, both unsure how to continue. Eli tried to think of something normal to say. "Do you want some water?" Lyra blinked at him. "Water? Necessary?" Yes, usually," Eli said. He held up a glass from the table. "Humans drink water." Lyra looked at it as if it were an alien artifact. She reached out carefully, touching it with 2 fingers. Liquid, acceptable. She took a tiny sip, her eyes widening. Strange sensation. Pleasant. Eli laughed. "It's just water. Wait until you try coffee, that's something else entirely." Lyra tilted her head. "Coffee? Hazard or ritual?" Mostly ritual, Eli said with a grin. For humans, it's very important. The air felt lighter after that small exchange. Eli realized that despite the shock, Lyra wasn't hostile. She was just different. Fascinatingly different. Okay, he said, sitting back on the floor. Since you're here now, want to help me with this project? Lyra blinked. Assist. Possible. Guidance required. Eli chuckled. Sure, guidance. No problem. They spent the next hour figuring out the holographic projector together. Eli gave simple instructions, and Lyra followed them meticulously, her 6 eyes glowing as she studied the floating grids. Every so often, she would tilt her head or extend a glowing finger to touch the light beams, adjusting them in ways Eli hadn't expected. Hey, Eli exclaimed one time. That's actually kind of brilliant. I didn't think of doing it that way. Lyra's chimes sounded like laughter. Observation, applied, useful, human, creative. Eli felt a warm sense of pride. Humans were supposed to be resourceful, adaptable. But seeing it recognized by an alien for the first time felt strange and exciting. The moment was interrupted when a loud beep echoed from the hallway. The door of their room slid open again, this time revealing another human roommate. Oh, sorry, The new roommate stopped mid-sentence when she saw Lyra. Lyra froze and emitted a low, melodic hum. Eli laughed nervously. Don't worry, she's friendly. Mostly. The new roommate raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. Clearly, in the Nova Horizon colony, unexpected alien roommates were rare, but not impossible. As the evening continued, Eli showed Lyra how humans ate dinner. He handed her a simple sandwich. She sniffed it carefully, her 6 eyes blinking in sync. Organic, safe. She took a tiny bite and looked surprised. Flavor, varied, pleasant. Eli laughed. Yep. Sandwiches are simple but good. Lyra tilted her head again. Humans enjoy simple pleasures. Yes, Eli said. We do, and we love sharing them. They settled into a rhythm, teaching each other small things. Lyra showed Eli how her species slept in short bursts of levitation, drifting a few inches above the floor, which made Eli laugh so hard that he almost knocked over the holographic projector. Careful, Lyra warned, her glowing eyes wide. Fragile. Human device. Eli caught it just in time. Yeah, see? Humans are fragile too, mostly emotionally. Lyra's soft, chime-like sound echoed again. Emotion. Interesting. Humans. Unpredictable. By the time night fell, Eli and Lyra were sitting cross-legged on the floor, laughing at their small misunderstandings. It had been a chaotic start, but slowly, a bond was forming. Eli realized that having an alien roommate wasn't just a surprise. It could be the start of something truly remarkable. Before turning off the lights, Eli asked, So, you'll be okay staying here? Lyra nodded. Accommodation, acceptable. Human, intriguing, interaction, desired. Eli grinned. Good, because I think we're going to have a lot of fun. Lyra's soft chime sounded almost like agreement. Fun? Definition unclear. We'll observe. Don't worry, Eli said, turning off the lights. You'll get the hang of it. As he lay down on his bed, he couldn't stop thinking about the day's events. The human-alien dynamic was strange, chaotic, and confusing, but in a way that felt exciting. Maybe, just maybe, this accidental meeting was the start of a friendship that could bridge worlds. And Lyra? She drifted above the floor in her short sleep cycle, 6 eyes glowing faintly in the darkness, silently processing the human she had just met, and wondering how such a fragile, curious creature could also be so endlessly fascinating. It was the beginning of a story neither of them could have predicted, and the first chapter of a friendship that would be funny, chaotic, and unforgettable. The morning sun of Nova Horizon Colony shone through the transparent windows of the shared room, casting soft golden light over Eli and Lyra. Eli had already been awake for half an hour, sipping a cup of steaming coffee, while Lyra floated gently above the floor in her early levitation sleep cycle. "Good morning," Eli said cheerfully, waving a hand. Lyra blinked her 6 eyes and stretched her long, translucent fingers. "Morning, human," she said in her melodic, slightly chime-like voice. "Activity, unusual. Coffee, aroma detected." Eli grinned. "Yes, coffee is very human. You should try it sometime." Lyra tilted her head. "Beverage, for stimulation or ritual?" "A little of both," Eli said, handing her a small cup. Lyra sniffed it carefully and then, after a moment of hesitation, took a tiny sip. Her eyes widened. "Hot, liquid, stimulating, interesting, effect, mild excitement." Eli laughed. "Welcome to the joys of human mornings." After breakfast, the real challenge began: living together. It quickly became clear that even the smallest routines were filled with surprises when humans and aliens shared a space. Lyra had her own ways of doing things. For example, she didn't sit on chairs. She hovered slightly above the floor, her body gently swaying as if gravity were a suggestion rather than a rule. She stored items in small levitation bubbles that floated around her, making the room feel like a small galaxy of moving objects. Eli, on the other hand, was clumsy. He dropped his pens, tripped over the edge of his bed, and occasionally knocked over floating objects by accident. Every time something fell, Lyra's eyes glowed brightly, and she would react with a mixture of alarm and fascination. "Careful," she would warn. "Human, fragile, gravity, dangerous." I know," Eli would say, grinning. "But that's part of being human. We're surprisingly resilient. Sometimes." One day, Eli tried to show Lyra how to prepare a simple human meal: sandwiches. He laid out bread, vegetables, cheese, and condiments. Lyra studied everything carefully, touching each item with her glowing fingers and making a soft, chime-like hum. "This combination edible?" she asked. "Yes, trust me, it's delicious," Eli said, layering the ingredients. Lyra picked up a slice of bread delicately and took a tiny bite. Her 6 eyes blinked rapidly. "Texture, spongy, flavor, multiple layers, sensation, agreeable." Eli laughed. "See? Told you humans have good taste." But the fun didn't last long. Lyra decided she wanted to try her species' food on Eli. She floated over to her small container of glowing crystals and floating plant matter. "Human attempt taste," she said, holding a glowing crystal in front of him. Eli hesitated. I don't know if that's a good idea." "Trial, essential for understanding," Lyra replied firmly. Eli sighed, took a small bite, and immediately regretted it. The taste was strange, sour and sweet at the same time, and the glow made his mouth feel warm in an odd way. His eyes watered. "Okay, yeah, maybe humans stick to coffee and sandwiches." Lyra tilted her head, fascinated. "Human, strong, digestive system, adaptable." Eli laughed. "Thanks, I guess. Humans are built for surprises." Living together also revealed the differences in sleep habits. Lyra's species slept in short bursts of floating cycles, often for just 30 minutes at a time, hovering gently above the ground. Eli, on the other hand, needed at least 6 hours of horizontal rest. At first, Lyra found it strange that he lay down completely and stayed still. "You immobile for hours?" she asked one night as Eli stretched out on the bed. "Yes, humans need sleep like that," he said, yawning. "It's essential for, well, everything." Lyra's soft hum sounded almost like laughter. "I cannot comprehend stillness for so long. Observation, necessary. Another source of amusement came from Lyra's attempts to imitate human movements. She tried walking like a human, only to stumble slightly every few steps. Eli found this endlessly entertaining. "You're doing it wrong," he said, laughing as she twisted slightly to maintain balance. "Correction. Attempted," she replied, adjusting her posture. "Human, locomotion, complex." Yes, it is," Eli said, still chuckling. "But you're getting better, slowly." One afternoon, the two were cleaning the room together. Lyra tried to use her levitation powers to move objects around. She lifted books, clothes, and even Eli's backpack, making them float mid-air. Eli tried to organize them manually, often getting in the way. "Eli, manual intervention. Unnecessary," Lyra said, her tone a mix of amusement and exasperation. "Yes, but you don't understand human chaos," Eli replied, ducking as a floating notebook spun toward him. "We humans like a little disorder. Keeps life interesting." Lyra's chime-like laughter echoed around the room. Disorder, tolerable, human, curious. Despite the differences, the small successes brought them closer. Eli found himself admiring Lyra's patience and precision, qualities humans often lacked. Lyra, in turn, began to appreciate human creativity and adaptability. She noticed how humans could laugh at themselves, find joy in mistakes, and keep going despite challenges. One evening, while the colony's lights dimmed for the night, Eli asked, "Lyra, have you ever observed humans closely before?" "Limited. Observation," she replied. "Mostly reports, data, statistics, direct experience, rare. And now you see it firsthand," Eli said. "We're a little messy, sometimes chaotic, but interesting." Lyra floated closer. "Human, behavior, unpredictable, yet fascinating. Emotion, complex, creativity, remarkable." Eli smiled. "That's humans for you. We can surprise even ourselves sometimes." Their shared laughter was interrupted when a loud crash came from the corridor. A small robot delivering supplies had bumped into another delivery drone, scattering packages across the hallway. Eli groaned. "Great. Now I have to help clean that up." Lyra's 6 eyes glimmered. Human, willing to intervene, despite inconvenience, courage, unusual. Eli chuckled. "It's what humans do. Sometimes we face chaos and just fix it. Makes life easier." Over the next few days, Eli and Lyra faced small challenges together. A spilled drink, a broken chair, a confusing human game called soccer that Lyra insisted on trying in the common area. Each mishap became an opportunity for laughter, learning, and mutual respect. Lyra began to experiment with human customs. She tried brushing her hair the way Eli did, only to have it float in several directions. She mimicked Eli's yawns, discovering that humans yawn in a contagious way. Eli showed her how to use a spoon properly, and she practiced diligently until she could eat soup without spilling a drop. One day, Eli introduced Lyra to human humor. He told a simple joke about a robot and a sandwich. Lyra's reaction was priceless. Her 6 eyes blinked in confusion. Then she emitted a melodic chime that sounded like laughter, though entirely alien. "I do not understand," she said between chimes. "Yet, sensation, enjoyable." Eli laughed. "That's human humor for you. Sometimes it doesn't make sense, but it makes you feel happy." Lyra paused, floating in thought. Human, feelings, complex, yet appealing. By the end of the week, Eli and Lyra had settled into a rhythm. They shared meals, studied together, and navigated the quirks of their different species with patience and humor. Small victories like Lyra successfully making a sandwich or Eli correctly assembling an alien device were celebrated with laughter and glowing appreciation. Despite the differences, both began to recognize the value of the other. Eli's ingenuity and warmth impressed Lyra, while Lyra's precision, curiosity, and alien perspective fascinated Eli. The room, once a place of confusion and accidental meetings, had become a shared space of learning, laughter, and growing friendship. Before going to sleep one night, Eli looked at Lyra floating above the floor. "You know, I think we make a pretty good team." Lyra tilted her head, her soft chimes echoing. "Team, effective, human, resourceful, interaction, enjoyable." Eli smiled. "Exactly. And tomorrow, we'll probably make a bigger mess. But that's okay." "Affirmative," Lyra said, her voice musical. "Human, unpredictable, yet remarkable." As the lights dimmed, both felt a quiet satisfaction. The cultural collision, the laughter, the minor disasters, it all added up to something bigger. A connection that went beyond species, a friendship built on curiosity, humor, and mutual respect. And while neither of them realized it yet, this unusual pairing of human and alien would soon face challenges far greater than sandwiches or spilled drinks. Challenges that would test not just their friendship, but the very limits of human ingenuity and alien adaptability. But for now, the room was quiet. The glow of Lyra's floating body illuminated the soft smile on Eli's face. Both drifted into sleep in their own ways, ready for whatever tomorrow might bring in the strange, wonderful world of the Nova Horizon colony. The Nova Horizon colony rarely experienced natural disasters, thanks to advanced technology and planetary shields. But on this particular morning, a sudden warning flashed across every screen and holo display in the colony. A storm of charged plasma particles was approaching faster than predicted. Its energy readings were unstable, and it threatened to disrupt life support systems and communication networks for hours. Eli was in the middle of his morning coffee when the alarm blared. The liquid sloshed over the rim of his cup. "Oh no, not today," he muttered. Lyra, already hovering above the floor, tilted her 6 eyes toward the display. "Storm. Intensity. Significant. Evacuation. Recommended." Eli shook his head. "Not necessary. If we stay indoors and secure things, we'll be fine. The building can handle it, mostly." Lyra's soft, chime-like voice sounded uncertain. "Mostly vague, risk, unknown, observation, advisable." Eli sighed, pushing the cup aside. "Well, we'll figure it out. Together." The first challenge was securing the room. Eli ran around, trying to move fragile objects away from the windows, while Lyra used her levitation abilities to float heavier items to safer spots. "Careful with that," Eli shouted as she lifted a large holo projection unit effortlessly. "Object stabilized," Lyra replied. "Human moving too slowly." "I'm human. Slow is our specialty," Eli said, ducking as a stack of books nearly toppled over. The storm hit the colony faster than expected. Windows rattled, and the walls hummed with energy. Lights flickered as the shields absorbed the plasma bursts. Eli and Lyra were confined to their small room, surrounded by floating objects, humming tech, and the constant threat of blackout. Eli held his hands up, trying to stay calm. "Okay, we need a plan. First, we secure the windows and doors." Lyra's glowing fingers traced the edges of the transparent wall panels. "Force distribution, plasma resistance, reinforced, adjustments, optimal." Eli stared in awe. "Wow, you're amazing at this. Humans could never do this without hours of preparation." Lyra's 6 eyes blinked. "Humans, ingenuity, observed, impressive." For the next hour, the storm raged outside, shaking the building like a giant hand. Eli tried to improvise using human tools, duct tape, old metal plates, and wires from a broken robot. Lyra augmented his efforts with her alien abilities, stabilizing the room's energy field and minimizing the impact on their equipment. "Hold this here!" Eli shouted, securing a panel against a sudden blast of wind that penetrated the outer barrier. "Panel anchored," Lyra said, floating mid-air and adjusting the energy field to absorb some of the impact. It was chaotic. Books floated, coffee mugs tipped over, and even some small levitation bubbles around Lyra escaped into the room. Yet, despite the danger, a strange rhythm formed. Eli and Lyra worked together seamlessly, human improvisation blending with alien precision. "You know," Eli said as he taped a loose wire to the wall, "this isn't as bad as I thought. I mean, it's stressful, sure, but kind of fun." Lyra blinked at him. "Fun, definition unclear, yet process, enjoyable." "Exactly," Eli laughed, narrowly avoiding a floating stack of papers. "Humans call this teamwork. And sometimes, it's even fun during a crisis." Lyra's soft chimes echoed through the room, almost like laughter. Teamwork, observed, human, resilient. Adaptation, remarkable. The storm intensified and a surge knocked out part of their room's internal power grid. The lights went dark for a few seconds, and both Eli and Lyra froze for a moment. "Power. Offline," Eli muttered. "Okay. Plan B." Lyra immediately extended her glowing fingers toward the nearest power conduit. She touched the wires lightly, sending a faint energy pulse through them. Lights flickered back on, stabilized, and the room felt safer. "Whoa!" Eli exclaimed. "You saved the room! That was incredible!" Lyra tilted her head. "Human, improvisation, impressive. Yet, risk, acceptable with caution." Eli nodded. "Yeah, humans are like that. We take risks, sometimes too many, but we learn fast." The storm raged on outside, but inside the room, Eli and Lyra shared a quiet sense of accomplishment. Despite the chaos, they had handled the situation together, complementing each other's strengths. Eli's quick thinking and Lyra's alien abilities formed a team neither could have managed alone. After a particularly strong gust of plasma energy, the holographic projector above their table sparked and went offline. Eli groaned. "Not essential, yet valuable for analysis," Lyra said, gently floating over and inspecting the device. Her glowing fingers manipulated the circuitry in ways Eli had never imagined. "Repair? Feasible?" Eli watched in awe as she fixed the projector almost effortlessly. "Wow, that's incredible. Humans could never fix that so fast." Lyra's 6 eyes blinked. "Efficiency, observed, human curiosity, remarkable." For the next few hours, they continued securing the room and improvising solutions. Eli's ideas were creative, but sometimes messy. Lyra's interventions were precise and efficient. Every small victory reinforced their trust in one another. "Eli," Lyra said quietly at one point, "human, resourceful, problem-solving, exceptional." Eli smiled. "Thanks. I think you're pretty amazing, too. You're calm, precise, and very smart." Lyra floated closer. "Observation, complete, human, courage, commendable, trust, established." The words caught Eli slightly off guard. "Trust, huh? That's a big word for an alien." "It is, but justified," Lyra said softly. By the time the storm finally passed, the colony's emergency systems had absorbed most of the damage. Eli and Lyra were exhausted but exhilarated. The room was a mess, papers floating, coffee spilled, wires sticking out of panels, but both felt a sense of accomplishment unlike anything before. Eli flopped onto his bed, laughing. "Well, that was an adventure. We survived a plasma storm without major disaster. That's teamwork." Lyra floated above, observing him. Adventure, defined, human, resourceful, interaction, valuable. Eli grinned. I'm glad you think so. Honestly, Lyra, I couldn't have done it without you. You assisted. Significantly as well, she replied. Observation? Mutual respect? Established? For the first time, Eli noticed something subtle in her expression, or rather in the way her glow changed slightly. It was soft, warm, like curiosity mixed with trust. She was beginning to understand humans not just as strange creatures, but as beings capable of ingenuity, emotion, and courage. The storm had been dangerous, yes, but it had also brought them closer. Where before they had been roommates learning each other's quirks, now they were partners in survival, sharing the unspoken understanding that comes from facing challenges together. That night, as Eli drifted to sleep, he reflected on what had happened. Humans were often underestimated by other species. They were seen as fragile, unpredictable, and limited. Yet, time and time again, humans had proven adaptable, creative, and resilient. Today had been proof of that. Lyra, meanwhile, floated in her short sleep cycle, her glowing form illuminating the dark room. Her 6 eyes blinked slowly, processing every moment of the storm. She thought about the human named Eli, who had remained calm, creative, and courageous despite the chaos. She noted the laughter, the improvisation, and the willingness to face the unknown without fear. Observation, trust, admiration. Lyra realized that humans were more than just statistics or reports. They were unpredictable, yes, but in that unpredictability lay a spark, a brilliance that fascinated her, and Eli. Eli embodied that spark. As the storm's residual energy faded and the colony returned to normal, both Eli and Lyra understood that something had changed. Their friendship was no longer built only on curiosity and humor. It was now strengthened by shared experience, mutual respect, and a growing sense of trust. Eli yawned and stretched. Tomorrow, I guess we go back to normal, right? Lyra floated closer, a soft glow emanating from her body. Normal, relative, interaction, continued, human, curiosity, to be further observed. Eli laughed softly. Well, good. Because I think we're going to have a lot more adventures, and next time, maybe fewer flying coffee mugs. Lyra emitted a soft, melodic sound, almost like a chuckle. Agreement. Noted. Human. Amusing. Observation. Invaluable. As they settled down to sleep, both human and alien reflected on the storm. It had been frightening, chaotic, and unpredictable. But it had also been a moment of connection. They had learned each other's strengths, respected each other's differences, and discovered that together they were far stronger than apart. And so, as the night sky above the Nova Horizon colony sparkled with distant stars, a new chapter of their friendship began. One that would test their ingenuity, challenge their differences, and above all, show that human courage and alien wisdom together could overcome any challenge. The storm had passed, but the bond it forged was only beginning. The days after the plasma storm were calm, almost serene. The Nova Horizon colony had recovered quickly thanks to automated repairs and the resilient design of the buildings. Eli and Lyra's room, however, still bore small reminders of their chaotic night. A floating coffee mug here, a slightly bent panel there, and a faint glow from Lyra's levitation bubbles lingering over the floor. Eli sat cross-legged on his bed, sipping coffee and watching Lyra experiment with human gadgets. Today, she was fascinated by a simple alarm clock. Its ticking and occasional chimes seemed to enthrall her. She floated closer, tilting her head, and poked it gently. Tick, tick. Fascinating, she murmured. Human, devices, curious. Eli laughed. It's just an alarm clock, Lyra. You humans have all these little things to measure time. Lyra's 6 eyes blinked rapidly. Time Measurement, essential, observation, continuous. Yeah, humans like schedules, Eli said with a grin, though sometimes we ignore them. As the morning light bathed the room in warm gold, Eli realized just how much he had grown used to Lyra's quirks. Floating objects, glowing fingers, 6 blinking eyes. All of it felt normal now. And Lyra, for her part, was increasingly interested in human habits. She watched him drink coffee, yawn, and stretch, analyzing each action with curious precision. Human, emotion, expression, frequent, she said, smiles, laughter, unpredictable, yet pleasant. Eli chuckled. Exactly. Humans are weird, but that's what makes us fun. Lyra tilted her head and floated closer. Fun. Definition. Partially understood. Human. Habits. Intriguing. Eli set his coffee aside and grinned. I think you're starting to get it. Humans aren't just numbers or data points. We're, well, kind of unpredictable. But in a good way. Lyra's soft chime echoed in the room. Unpredictable? Yes. Yet, enjoyable to observe. That afternoon, Eli decided to introduce Lyra to a classic human pastime, games. He brought out a small board game, explaining the rules carefully. Lyra watched silently, her glowing fingers occasionally hovering over the pieces, ready to make a move. Human game for recreation? She asked. Yes, Eli said. It's about strategy, thinking ahead, and having fun. Lyra tilted her head. Fun, value, unclear. Yet, observation, required. They began playing. At first, Lyra followed the rules mechanically, carefully calculating every possible move. Eli, on the other hand, made spontaneous decisions, relying on intuition rather than strategy. Lyra watched him, intrigued by the unpredictability. You choose irrationally, she observed, yet outcome often favorable. Eli laughed. That's human intuition. We take risks, sometimes succeed, sometimes fail, but it's exciting. By the end of the game, Eli had won by a narrow margin. Lyra's 6 eyes blinked in a pattern that seemed almost like amusement. Human intuition. Effective. Unexpected, yet impressive. Eli grinned. See? Humans aren't always logical, but we have our ways. Lyra tilted her head thoughtfully. Observation, human creativity, acknowledged. Interaction, valuable. After the game, they shared lunch. Eli handed her a simple sandwich, which she had already mastered, and Lyra offered him a small floating plant that glowed softly. Eli hesitated, then took a bite, and found it surprisingly pleasant. You know, Eli said, chewing carefully, you might be teaching me more about alien culture than I'm teaching you about human culture. Lyra's soft chime echoed. Mutual learning, observed, value, considerable. As the day went on, they continued experimenting with each other's habits. Lyra tried drinking coffee again, this time carefully measuring the amount. She glowed slightly brighter than usual, and Eli laughed at the sight. You look funny, he said, like a glowing coffee ghost. Lyra tilted her head, floating closer. Appearance? Amusing? Human reaction? Unexpected. Eli laughed even harder. Exactly. That's what I said about humans. We can be weird, but it's fun to notice. Lyra's melodic chime echoed again, a sound that now felt familiar and comforting to Eli. She was learning to enjoy the little quirks of human life, and Eli was learning to appreciate the beauty of alien differences. That evening, the colony hosted a small interspecies cultural festival. Eli and Lyra decided to attend together. Humans and aliens mingled, sharing stories, food, and laughter. Eli introduced Lyra to some human dances, which she attempted with careful precision, her levitation bubbles adding an unpredictable but elegant twist. "You move. Unusual," Eli said, laughing. "But it works." Lyra's soft chimes sounded like laughter. Human, observation, entertaining, motion, enjoyable. They also sampled alien delicacies from other species, laughing when the flavors were completely unexpected. Eli tried a dessert that literally floated above the plate, while Lyra carefully tested a carbonated drink that tickled her senses. Each reaction, human or alien, was met with curiosity, amusement, and mutual respect. On the walk back to their room, Eli nudged Lyra playfully. "You know, I think you like humans more than you admit." Lyra tilted her head, her glow softening. "Human interactions, intriguing, emotions complex, laughter valued." "And what about me?" Eli asked, smiling. Lyra's eyes blinked, 6 times in a soft rhythm. "Human, Eli, companion, valued, observation, important." Eli laughed, feeling a warmth he had never expected from an alien companion. "Well, that's good, because I value you too, Lyra, more than I thought I would." Back in their room, they shared a quiet moment. Eli floated a small levitation bubble toward Lyra, containing a glowing dessert he had saved from the festival. Lyra caught it gently, tasting it and smiling, a gesture that, for a human, almost looked like pure happiness. "You enjoy?" Eli asked. "Affirmative. Taste. Pleasant. Human. Thoughtfulness. Appreciated," she said. Eli grinned. "See? Humans can be thoughtful too, and sometimes funny, especially when you react to little things." That night, something truly priceless happened. Eli accidentally dropped a spoon while cleaning up. It clattered to the floor and Lyra froze, 6 eyes wide. Then, slowly, she tilted her head, hovered closer, and emitted a soft chime that sounded almost like giggling. Eli looked at her in surprise. You just laughed at me?" Lyra's glow pulsed softly. "Reaction, unexpected, delightful. Human behavior, amusing." Eli burst out laughing. "That's exactly why I said your reaction was priceless." Lyra's 6 eyes blinked in a rhythmic pattern that Eli had learned meant amusement. Definition, understood, human, humorous, enjoyable. They laughed together for several minutes, the room filled with a sound that was part human laughter, part alien chime, a combination that somehow felt perfect. By the next morning, Eli and Lyra had fallen into a comfortable rhythm. They shared meals, games, and experiments, always learning and laughing together. Their friendship had grown beyond curiosity or obligation. It was now built on trust, admiration, and shared joy. Eli reflected on how far they had come. When Lyra had walked in by accident, he had been nervous and unsure. Now, after storms, games, and countless quirky moments, he realized that having an alien roommate could be one of the most rewarding experiences of his life. Lyra, meanwhile, floated above the floor in her gentle levitation, observing Eli as he prepared breakfast. She noted his care, his creativity, and his humor. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but in that unpredictability lay something she had come to admire deeply. And Eli, he had shown her kindness, patience, and laughter that no report or data could ever explain. As they sat together at breakfast, Lyra finally spoke, her 6 eyes glowing softly. "Human, Eli, interaction, invaluable, experience, cherished, friendship, confirmed." Eli smiled warmly. "Well, Lyra, I think that's the nicest thing I've ever heard from an alien." Lyra tilted her head, soft chimes echoing. "Observation, mutual, human, trust, established. Future, interaction, promising," Eli laughed. "Exactly. And tomorrow, We'll probably make a bigger mess again, but I wouldn't trade it for anything." Lyra floated closer, her glow soft and steady. "Agreement, noted. Human, amusing, observation, invaluable." And as they finished breakfast, laughing and joking about yesterday's spilled drinks and floating desserts, it became clear that their accidental meeting had led to something extraordinary. A friendship between human and alien, born of surprise and curiosity, had grown into a bond filled with laughter, trust, and priceless reactions. In the Nova Horizon colony, where humans and aliens often lived side by side but rarely connected, Eli and Lyra had proven that understanding, respect, and a little humor could bridge worlds. And sometimes, all it took was walking into the wrong room.